Hey guys! Welcome to the gaming edition of Mind-Blowing Facts. Here are some more facts about video games. All information in this video is collected from the facts site. So, let's start. Number 1. Age of Empires 2 was also released for PlayStation 2. Console ports of real-time strategy, RTS, games often leave much to be desired, as the controls are rarely mapped out well for joysticks. Unfortunately, this was the case for Age of Empires 2, The Age of Kings, with the game only being released in European and Japanese markets. In fact, many classed the PlayStation 2 version of the game as completely unplayable, as moving the cursor around the screen was utterly counterintuitive, and everything was zoomed in too much. Number 2. Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 2 was the first in the series to have a playable Marvel character. While many players obviously chose to skate around as the game's titular character, Tony Hawk, there were, of course, 21 other playable characters across the different versions that were released worldwide. Some of these characters were only unlocked after meeting certain conditions, though. Once you completed 100% of the career mode with a created skater, for example, players would be able to skate around as Spider-Man. Number 3. Deus Ex may have predicted the destruction of the Twin Towers. Deus Ex was released in the year 2000, during a time when video game graphics were still quite limited. Because of this, the Twin Towers were too difficult to place into views of the New York skyline, so the game developers decided to remove them and claim that a terrorist attack had destroyed them. Less than 1 year after the game's release, the Twin Towers were, of course, destroyed. Number 4. The 250th two-player game played in the Mortal Kombat 2 arcade version launched a much older arcade classic instead. Mortal Kombat 2 was a much darker game than its predecessor, but the developers also knew to throw in plenty of fun Easter eggs to lighten the mood. One such feature was unlocked upon playing 250 two-player games, with players able to play a game of Pong instead. Pong was one of the first arcade games ever created, where players hit a ball back and forth across the screen in an attempt to be the first to score 11 points. Number 5. Metroid Samus Aran was originally meant to be a man. About halfway through the first Metroid game's development, the game designers stopped and realized it would be really cool if, inside their power suit, Samus was actually a girl. Everyone was instantly on board with the idea, and Samus' character's design was slightly adjusted to reflect her femininity without going over the top. Number 6. Doom's working title was Attack of the Attackers. Fortunately, Doom's creators quickly realized that this name was a little too tongue-in-cheek and dropped the idea. In the end, the inspiration for Doom's name came from a surprising source, Tom Cruise. In the 1986 movie, The Color of Money, the character played by Tom Cruise referred to the contents of his pool cue case as Doom, foreshadowing the utter destruction of his opposition. This was something that seemed incredibly fitting for a game about obliterating aliens. Number 7. Dota 2's lead developer is only known by the pseudonym IceFrog. IceFrog didn't enter the scene until Defense of the Ancients, Dota, was a reasonably well-developed Warcraft 3 mod, but soon took control of the game's development after the original creators left to work on League of Legends. He stayed on as the lead developer of Dota 2 but has remained almost completely anonymous during the entire period. Some claim that his real name is Abdul Ismail, which is apparently proven by some legal documents connected to the game, but very little is known other than that. Number 8. Super Mario World is Shigeru Miyamoto's favorite Mario game. If you've ever played any games from the Mario or Legend of Zelda series, you have Shigeru Miyamoto to thank for creating them. Out of the hundreds of titles birthed from Miyamoto's brain, Super Mario World is his absolute favorite, a sentiment shared by nearly all Mario fans worldwide. That's a rather impressive feat for Super Mario World, considering it was released back in 1990. Number 9. Many of the characters in Undertale are named after fonts. One of the most popular of these characters is the jovial skeleton, Sans. All of Sans' dialogue is written in Comic Sans because the game's creators are well aware that Comic Sans as a font is a bit of a joke itself. When Sans becomes angry in the game, his dialogue changes to uppercase Comic Sans. Number 10. Among Us was originally called Space Mafia. The working title for Among Us was at first Space Mafia, an incredibly unimaginative name considering it is literally a video game version of the popular party game Mafia but in space. This name can still be seen in the name of the application's package name on the Android Play Store application. Number 11. Bloodborne is so hard that Sony's head of worldwide game development constantly emailed the developers for tips. It's safe to say that Shuhei Yoshida absolutely adores Bloodborne, given the fact that he managed to achieve a prestigious platinum trophy for 100% completion of the game. Many gamers these days turn to the internet to gain insights into how to get past tricky boss fights, but Yoshida went one step further. Whenever he found himself in a tough bind, he emailed Bloodborne's developers directly for hints. Number 12. If you play Rise of the Tomb Raider on February 14th, a special message pops up. No, it's got absolutely nothing to do with Valentine's Day. Instead, in the Tomb Raider universe, February 14th is Lara Croft's birthday. A special message exclaiming "Happy Birthday Lara Croft" will pop up in the loading screen's hints section when you play on this day. Number 13. Despite ranking as one of the greatest NES games of all time, Mega Man 3 was a complete rush job. When reflecting on the development of Mega Man 3, Keiji Inafune, one of the game's artists, said that it was one of his least favorite of the Mega Man series to work on. The development team experienced setback after setback and felt they needed much more time to polish and release the game they thought it should have been. Unfortunately for the team, Capcom demanded they rush to finish it off and release it, ready or not. Number 14. While Heroes of Might and Magic 3 got an HD remake, its expansions didn't, because the source code was lost. Heroes of Might and Magic 3 was undoubtedly the best of the Heroes series, with countless fans worldwide still playing it today. Despite its clunky interface, there's just something so nostalgic about opening up the game and hearing the iconic theme tune. It's something that sounds better when Ubisoft released an HD remake in 2014. Unfortunately, the source code for the expansions was nowhere to be found when the HD remake was made. It was, however, rediscovered on an ex-developer's hard drive 3 years later. Number 15. A remaster of GoldenEye 007 was meant to be released in 2008. A few years after Microsoft acquired Rare, the studio behind the Nintendo 64 Classic, in 2002, Rare started looking into developing a remastered edition. By 2008, they had nearly finished the job and had just a few months more to go when they discovered that Microsoft hadn't actually managed to get the rights from Nintendo to develop it, and the project was ultimately cancelled. It's a great shame, as not only would the remaster have allowed Xbox 360 players to jump back into one of their favorite childhood games, they would have been able to play online games of it too. Number 16. World of Warcraft racked up 5.5 million lines of code within its first 5 years. World of Warcraft is without a doubt one of the largest and most popular MMORPGs in history, and it's likely to keep on growing for decades to come. Back in 2009, Blizzard announced that they had written some 5.5 million lines of code for the behemoth-like game, which adds up to about 90,000 pages. What's most impressive is that at the time, they had just 51 dedicated programmers who wrote all of that. Number 17. Scientists found that playing Portal 2 can improve your problem-solving skills. The 2014 study also found that playing Portal 2 dramatically improves your ability to stick to a designated task and spatial awareness. Number 18. The Dark Souls developers completely trolled the game's players. When creating your character, you can choose to start with several items, one of them being a pendant. This pendant had no seeming effect on the game, which led players down the rabbit hole, searching for some possible use for it. In the end, the developers came clean and admitted they added the pendant as a bit of a prank, knowing it would drive players a little bit crazy. Number 19. The idea for the secret cow level in Diablo 2 came from a hoax in the first Diablo game. Back in the days of Diablo 1, players with a little too much time on their hands started spreading the rumor that there was a secret level that could only be accessed by interacting with one of the cows in the game. It was claimed that if one clicked on this cow enough times, a portal would open up, leading players to a secret level. While this wasn't even remotely true, the game developers thought it was hilarious and integrated it into Diablo 2. Number 20. LittleBigPlanet was originally called Craftworld, and its main character was Mr. Yellowhead. In 2005, the developers of LittleBigPlanet created a working prototype for their game, which featured an overly simple character with a distinctive square yellow head. They used this prototype to pitch their game to Sony. Despite its simplicity, Sony was on board, but it took a long time of development for LittleBigPlanet to become the game we know today. You can actually unlock a Mr. Yellowhead costume by completing the last level of story mode without losing any lives. Number 21. The first Worms game was created as an entry into a game development competition. In the early 90s, Andy Davidson had the idea for an artillery-based game, which he quite unoriginally titled Artillery. It wasn't until Davidson heard of a competition by a software development magazine that he packaged his ideas into a new game, Total Wormage, and submitted it. While Davidson's entry was unsuccessful, he later pitched his ideas to Team 17, who loved it and offered to help develop and publish his game. Number 22. There's a secret Star Wars reference hidden in Final Fantasy VI. Many people claim that Final Fantasy VI was the best out of the series. There were so many genuinely incredible storytelling moments throughout the entire game, and there are also the moments where you stumble upon a Star Wars reference. In this case, if Locke is wearing an Imperial soldier disguise when he rescues seals, she'll ask, "Aren't you a little short for an Imperial soldier?" A clear reference to Princess Leia's quip in Star Wars Episode 4. That's it for this video. I hope you enjoyed this video. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe my channel. Also press the notification bell to be the first one to watch fun and cool videos like this. Thanks for watching, and bye.